My mother-in-law handed me an envelope thick with cash at my husband's funeral reception. $50,000. "Take this and disappear from our lives," she whispered, her perfume suffocating. "You got what you wanted from Nathan. Now leave with some dignity." I should have thrown it in her face. I should have screamed. But I was numb, hollowed out by grief, and I had bills piling up that Nathan's death had only made worse. The funeral alone cost $18,000. Our joint account was frozen pending probate. I had exactly $347 in my personal checking account. "I need to access our joint account first," I heard myself say. "Then we can talk." Beatrice Torres smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "Of course, dear. We'll go to the bank tomorrow. 10 a.m. sharp. Chase on Fifth Avenue." That night I sat in our apartment, my apartment now, staring at Nathan's empty chair. We'd been married for 8 years. 8 years of her subtle digs, her comments about my humble background, her reminders that Nathan could have married someone from a proper family. But Nathan had loved me. He'd chosen me. Or had he? The question had started creeping in during his final months. The whispered phone calls. The late nights at the office. The way he'd changed his phone password without telling me. I pushed the thoughts away. Nathan was gone. Whatever secrets he'd had died with him. The next morning I dressed carefully. Black pencil skirt, cream blouse, the pearl earrings Nathan had given me for our 5th anniversary. If I was going to face Beatrice Torres, I would do it looking like I belonged in her world. Chase Bank on Fifth Avenue was all marble and glass, the kind of place where even the air felt expensive. Beatrice was already waiting, wearing a black Chanel suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary as a hotel manager. "There you are," she said loudly as I approached. Several heads turned. "I was beginning to think you'd run off with the cash already." My face burned. "I'm 5 minutes early, Beatrice." She looked me up and down. "Well, let's get this over with. I have a lunch appointment at the club." We got in line behind a young couple discussing a mortgage. Beatrice's voice carried, sharp and deliberate. "You know, Vivian, I've been thinking about how you met Nathan. Wasn't it at that hotel where you worked? He was there for a conference?" "Yes," I said quietly, willing her to stop. "Such a coincidence that you ended up in his room to fix the air conditioning," she continued, making air quotes with her manicured fingers. "And that he was going through such a vulnerable time after his father's death." Couple in front of us had gone quiet, pretending not to listen while clearly hearing every word. "That's not what happened," I said, my voice shaking. "Oh, I'm sure you believe that," Beatrice said with a tinkling laugh. "Young, pretty girl with nothing to her name meets grieving millionaire. It's quite a Cinderella story, isn't it?" I wanted to sink into the floor. But then it was our turn, and I stepped up to the counter with as much dignity as I could muster. The teller was a young woman with kind eyes and a name tag that read Jennifer. She smiled at me. "How can I help you today?" "I need to make a withdrawal from my joint account with my husband," I said, sliding my ID and debit card across the counter. "Nathan Torres. He passed away last week and I need to access our funds." Jennifer's fingers flew across her keyboard. Then they stopped. Her smile faltered. "Just a moment, please," she said, her voice suddenly tight. She typed more, leaned closer to her screen, then looked up at me with an expression I couldn't read. Her eyes flicked to Beatrice, then back to me. "Mrs. Torres," Jennifer said carefully, "I'm going to need to speak with my manager about this account. Would you mind waiting just a moment?" "Is there a problem?" Beatrice asked sharply. "Just a moment," Jennifer repeated. She stood up, but as she did, she picked up a small yellow post-it note from beside her keyboard. She wrote something quickly and placed it face down on the counter, sliding it toward me with one finger. My hand moved automatically, covering the note. Jennifer walked away toward the manager's office without another word. Beatrice was checking her phone, distracted. I palmed the post-it and turned slightly away, unfolding it in my hand. The words were written in urgent, cramped handwriting. Do not sign anything. Ask for Mr. Mitchell now. Your account frozen yesterday, fraud claim. My blood turned to ice. What's taking so long? Beatrice complained. This is absurd. I looked at her, really looked at her. The impatient tapping of her foot. The tight grip on her designer handbag. The way she wouldn't quite meet my eyes. Mrs. Torres? Jennifer had returned with an older man in a gray suit. This is Mr. Mitchell, our branch manager. He'd like to speak with you both in his office. Both of us? Beatrice's voice rose. I'm just here to accompany my daughter-in-law. Surely this doesn't require. Mrs. Beatrice Torres, correct? Mr. Mitchell's voice was professional but firm. Yes, I believe it would be best if you joined us as well. The walk to his office felt endless. My heart was hammering so hard I thought they could hear it. Beatrice's heels clicked sharply on the marble floor. Mr. Mitchell's office was small but well-appointed, with a heavy wooden door that he closed firmly behind us. He didn't sit down immediately. Instead, he looked at both of us with an expression that made my stomach drop. Mrs. Vivian Torres, he said, I'm afraid there's been some unusual activity on your account that we need to discuss. What kind of activity? I asked, though I was starting to guess. Mr. Mitchell opened a folder on his desk. 2 days ago, we received a request to freeze all accounts associated with Nathan Torres. The request came with documentation alleging that your marriage to Mr. Torres was fraudulent and that you had manipulated him into adding your name to his accounts. The room spun. That's insane. We were married for 8 years. I can show you the marriage certificate, I said desperately. The joint account has been active since 2018. How is that fraudulent? Who filed this request? I already knew, but I needed to hear it. Mr. Mitchell's eyes moved to Beatrice. The request came from Mrs. Beatrice Torres, acting as the executor of her son's estate. Beatrice had the decency to look uncomfortable for exactly 2 seconds. Then her mask snapped back into place. I was protecting my son's assets from a gold digger. Vivian, you can't possibly expect me to believe. There's more, Mr. Mitchell interrupted. He pulled out another document. Mrs. Beatrice Torres, you also inquired about a life insurance policy held by your son. Policy number LI 4782NT with New York Life. You stated you were the beneficiary and requested information on filing a claim. My breath caught. Life insurance? Nathan never mentioned. Because he didn't want your greedy hands on it, Beatrice snapped, finally dropping her pretense. That policy is family money. Nathan took it out when he turned 25, long before he met you. Actually, Mr. Mitchell said quietly, according to New York Life's records, which they shared with us due to the fraud investigation, the beneficiary was changed 4 years ago. He slid a paper across his desk toward me. The current beneficiary is Vivian Marie Torres. The policy value is $1.8 million. The room went completely silent. I stared at the paper, unable to process what I was seeing. Nathan had made me the beneficiary 4 years ago, 2 months after we'd bought our apartment together. Right after I'd had my miscarriage and we'd both promised each other we were in this for life, no matter what. That's impossible, Beatrice whispered, but her face had gone chalk white. He wouldn't have. He couldn't have done that without telling me. Why would he need to tell you? I found my voice, and it was stronger than I expected. I was his wife. You were nothing. Beatrice's composure shattered. You were a nobody who trapped my son when he was vulnerable. That money belongs to the Torres family. Nathan belonged to the Torres family. Ma'am, Mr. Mitchell said firmly, I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice. And Mrs. Vivian Torres, I strongly suggest you consult with an attorney before taking any further action. The fraud claim Mrs. Beatrice Torres filed is serious, And while it appears to be without merit, you'll need legal representation to resolve this matter properly. I stood up on shaking legs. I'd like to file a complaint against Mrs. Beatrice Torres for attempting to steal my inheritance through fraudulent claims. You little... Beatrice lunged toward me, but Mr. Mitchell stepped between us. Mrs. Beatrice Torres, if you don't leave this office immediately, I will call security. Your fraud claim is being rejected, and I will be reporting this incident to the police. Beatrice's eyes blazed with pure hatred. This isn't over, Vivian. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Torres family has lawyers who will bury you. We have connections. We have... What you have, I said quietly, is my husband's death on your conscience. And I'm going to find out exactly what role you played in it. Her face went from red to white in an instant. For just a second, I saw fear flicker in her eyes. Then she grabbed her purse and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the picture frames on Mr. Mitchell's wall rattled. I collapsed back into my chair, trembling. Mr. Mitchell poured me a glass of water from a pitcher on his desk. Mrs. Torres, he said gently, I meant what I said about getting an attorney. This is going to get messy. I know, I whispered. Then I looked up at him. Mr. Mitchell, what made you suspicious? Why did Jennifer slip me that note? He smiled slightly. Jennifer's mother went through something similar. A wealthy husband, a controlling mother-in-law, suspicious circumstances. Jennifer recognized the patterns. She's the one who flagged Mrs. Beatrice Torres's fraud claim when it came through and asked me to review it carefully. Please thank her for me, I said, my eyes filling with tears. She might have just saved my life. That afternoon, I sat in the office of Rebecca Stone, a lawyer whose name I'd found through a desperate Google search for estate fraud attorney Manhattan. Her office was in a converted brownstone in the West Village, and she had the kind of sharp, assessing gaze that made me feel simultaneously protected and exposed. I told her everything. The funeral, the cash, the bank, Beatrice's reaction to the insurance policy. And you said your husband's death was sudden? Rebecca asked, making notes on a legal pad. He had a heart condition, I explained. Congenital. He'd been managing it with medication for years, but 6 weeks ago he had what they called a cardiac event. He needed surgery to replace a valve. The surgery went fine, but 3 days later he had massive heart failure. The doctors said it was unexpected complications. Rebecca's pen stopped moving. Did they do an autopsy? No. The doctors said it was clearly related to his pre-existing condition. Beatrice insisted on a quick funeral. She said it's what Nathan would have wanted. And his medication, Rebecca said slowly. Who managed that? I frowned, trying to remember. He saw a cardiologist, Dr. Raymond Ashford. Family friend, apparently. Beatrice recommended him. Rebecca wrote down the name, underlining it twice. Mrs. Torres, I need to ask you something, and I need you to think very carefully before you answer. Is there any possibility that your husband's death was not natural? Question hung in the air like poison gas. I opened my mouth to say no, of course not, that was crazy. But then I remembered Nathan's last words to me, mumbled through the hospital fog of medication. Viv, if anything happens to me, don't trust my mother. Promise me. I thought he was delirious. Now I wondered. I don't know, I whispered. But I need to find out. Rebecca nodded slowly. Then we're going to need more than just an estate attorney. We're going to need an investigator. Possibly the police. Beatrice said the Torres family has connections. Lawyers. Power. So do I, Rebecca said with a slight smile. And more importantly, we have something she doesn't. What's that? The truth. And in my experience, the truth always comes out. It just needs a little help sometimes. 3 days later, I received a call from Dr. Philip Chen, the medical examiner Rebecca had contacted. He'd reviewed Nathan's medical records, and his voice was grave. Mrs. Torres, I found some irregularities I'd like to discuss with you in person. Can you come to my office this afternoon? My hands were shaking as I made the drive to his office in Brooklyn. Rebecca met me there, her presence a steady anchor. Dr. Chen was a small man with wire-rimmed glasses and an air of precise competence. He spread Nathan's medical files across his desk like cards in a dart game. Your husband's cardiac medication, he said without preamble, was carvedilol, correct? 25 milligrams twice daily? Yes, I said. He'd been on it for 5 years. According to his prescription records, his last refill was dated March 2nd, 6 weeks before his surgery. But when I spoke with the pharmacist at the CVS where he filled his prescriptions, she told me something interesting. She'd noticed that the tablets in his last prescription looked different. Slightly different shape, different texture. She assumed it was a generic substitute and didn't think much of it at the time. My mouth went dry. What are you saying? I'm saying, Dr. Chen continued, that I obtained a sample of the medication from that prescription. Your husband kept the bottle in your medicine cabinet, yes? I nodded. These are not carvedilol tablets, Dr. Chen said quietly. They're placebo. Sugar pills. Someone replaced your husband's heart medication with fake pills approximately 2 months before his death. The room tilted. Rebecca's hand found my shoulder, steadying me. Who could have done that? I whispered. That's what we need to find out, Rebecca said. Dr. Chen, thank you for this. I'm going to need you to preserve those pills as evidence and prepare a full report. Mrs. Torres, we need to go to the police. Now. The next week was a blur of police interviews, investigators, and mounting evidence. Detective Sarah Moss was assigned to the case, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who listened to everything with an expression that gave nothing away. Mrs. Torres, she said during our third meeting, we've been digging into your late husband's affairs. Did you know that 6 months before his death, he contacted a new attorney to draft a revised will? No, I said. He never mentioned it. According to attorney James Walsh, Nathan wanted to make substantial changes. He was planning to leave the majority of his estate, including his 40% stake in Torres property holdings, to you. He also planned to establish a trust that would effectively freeze his mother out of any decision-making power in the company. I stared at her. Why would he do that? According to Mr. Walsh, Nathan believed his mother was engaged in financial misconduct within the company. He discovered irregularities in the books, money being siphoned off into personal accounts, fraudulent contracts with shell companies. He was planning to expose her and remove her from leadership. Did he tell Beatrice any of this? We believe she found out, Detective Moss said grimly. We pulled phone records. 6 months ago, Nathan had a 3-hour argument with his mother at her penthouse. The doorman remembers because Mrs. Beatrice Torres was screaming so loudly security almost intervened. The next week, Nathan's regular doctor, Dr. Stevens, received a call from Mrs. Torres insisting that Nathan be transferred to the care of Dr. Raymond Ashford. The family friend, I said numbly. Dr. Ashford, Detective Moss continued, has been the Torres family physician for 15 years. He's also deeply in debt. His practice is failing and he has a gambling problem. 3 days after Nathan's death, Dr. Ashford made a deposit of $50,000 into his personal account. The transfer came from a shell company that we've traced back to Beatrice Torres. Pieces were falling into place, forming a picture so dark I could barely look at it. She killed him, I whispered. She killed her own son. We believe she conspired with Dr. Ashford to replace Nathan's medication with placebos, Detective Moss said. Without his heart medication, the surgery became exponentially more dangerous. The unexpected complications were entirely predictable if you knew he wasn't actually taking his medication. She murdered him to protect her control of the company and the family fortune. I thought I'd already cried all the tears I had. I was wrong. Trial was swift and brutal. Beatrice Torres hired a team of expensive lawyers, but Rebecca was relentless, and the evidence was overwhelming. Dr. Ashford, facing a murder charge, turned state's evidence in exchange for a reduced sentence. He confessed everything on the stand. Mrs. Torres approached me 9 months ago, he testified, his voice shaking. She said Nathan was planning to destroy the family. She said he'd been manipulated by his wife and wasn't thinking clearly. She asked me to help her protect the family legacy. "And what did you do?" the prosecutor asked. "I replaced his Carvedilol with placebo tablets," Dr. Ashford said, not meeting anyone's eyes. "I knew the surgery would be dangerous without the medication. I knew he would likely die. But Mrs. Torres said it was the only way. She said the family would take care of me." Courtroom erupted. The judge called for order. I sat frozen, listening to a man describe how he'd murdered my husband as if he were discussing the weather. Beatrice Torres showed no emotion throughout the trial. She sat ramrod straight in her Chanel suits, her face a mask of aristocratic disdain. But when the jury came back after only 4 hours of deliberation with a guilty verdict, I saw that mask finally crack. Guilty of conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree. Guilty of fraud. Guilty of tampering with evidence. Guilty. 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 Beatrice's lawyer requested she be allowed to remain free on bail pending sentencing. The judge denied the motion. As the bailiffs approached to take her into custody, Beatrice finally looked at me. "You destroyed this family," she hissed. "You took everything from us." "No," I said, standing up. My voice was steady now, clear. "You did that yourself. You killed your own son because you loved money more than you loved him. Nathan knew what you were. That's why he was cutting you out. He died trying to protect me from you. He was weak," she spat. "He was always weak. Just like his father." "He was good," I said. "That's something you'll never understand." The bailiffs led her away. She was sentenced to 15 years for conspiracy to commit murder. Dr. Ashford got 12 years for his role. Torres family empire collapsed as the financial fraud was exposed. Millions in embezzled funds, tax evasion, bribery. Company was dissolved, assets seized. But Nathan's 40% stake had been held in a separate trust, untouched by his mother's crimes. It was worth $18 million. Combined with the life insurance policy and our joint savings, I inherited everything Nathan had wanted me to have. 3 years have passed. I'm standing in the lobby of the Torres Memorial Foundation, a nonprofit I created to help widows navigate the legal and financial complexities after losing a spouse. The walls are decorated with photos of the women we've helped, over 200 so far. "Mrs. Carter?" My assistant pokes her head into my office. "Your 3 o'clock is here." "Send them in," I say, smoothing my jacket. Ryan walks in, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing the smile that still makes my heart skip. We met during the investigation. He was the private investigator Rebecca had hired to help build the case. We've been together for a year now, taking it slow, building something real. "Ready for tonight?" he asks, handing me a coffee. "Tonight is our engagement party. Small, intimate, just close friends and family. My mother will be there, tears of joy already prepared. Rebecca will be there, celebrating the case that changed both our lives." "I'm ready," I say, and I mean it. My phone buzzes. It's Jennifer from Chase Bank, now a friend. Her message is simple: "Saw the news about the foundation. Nathan would be so proud." I look at the photo on my desk, Nathan and me on our honeymoon in Greece, his arm around my shoulders, both of us laughing at something ridiculous. In that moment, we'd been perfectly happy, untouched by what was coming. I can't bring him back. I can't undo what Beatrice did. But I can make sure his death meant something. I can make sure other women don't face what I faced, alone, vulnerable, and fighting against people who have all the power. The foundation has helped recover over $8 million in stolen inheritances. We've put 12 fraudulent executors in prison. We've reunited families torn apart by greed. And Beatrice Torres? She sits in a cell at Bedford Hills Correctional Facility, stripped of her wealth, her status, her family name. Her daughter won't speak to her. Her grandchildren don't know her name. The society friends she cultivated for decades have all turned away. She thought she could erase me with $50,000 and a few lies. She thought I was weak, insignificant. She was wrong. Sometimes at night I still wake up crying, missing Nathan with an ache that never quite fades. But then I think about the women I've helped, the lives I've changed, and I remember what he told me the night before his surgery. Viv, you're stronger than you think. If anything happens to me, promise you'll fight. Promise you won't let them win. I kept that promise, Nathan. I fought. And we won.